Happy Friday, y'all. It is home game week. Finally, after a month, the Bills are back home against the Tennessee Titans. This is the Triple Coverage Podcast here on the Built in Buffalo Podcast Network. I am the president of Built in Buffalo, Lance Nelson. To my left, Scott Casson. To my right, Benjamin Shoop. Boys, we did it. We went out, we took a swing, we made a move. How we feeling on Friday today?
Feeling good. It's going into a weekend where we get to see Bills take on a team that they hopefully should have a great game against. So looking forward to it, and yeah, just happy. It's Happy Friday's finally here, and we get another great weekend of football.
Yeah,
What's
I'm
up,
excited.
Scott?
Like you said, the Bills made a move. You thought that might be coming. The timing was funny. Devontae Adams goes to the Jets, and then like half an hour later, announced that the Bills signed Amari Cooper, traded for Amari Cooper. So yeah, really excited to see him out on the field on Sunday because McDermott said today he's going to play. So yeah, really excited about it and excited for what that can do for our offense.
Yeah, quick thoughts. How much do you think he's going to play this week? I'm going to say 20 to 25 snaps. His impact is going to be noticeable because the defense cannot ignore his presence on the field. What do you got, Shoop?
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect anything big. I expect a few catches, a few balls thrown his way, but again, he's learning the playbook, so I'm not expecting, anything big from him. Maybe one or two big plays that get the crowd pumped.
Yeah, I think he'll play, I don't know, somewhere between maybe 40 to 50% of the snaps. And he's definitely not going to have the whole route tree yet, but the defense has to respect him because they don't know what's part of his route tree yet. So I think third downs are going to be big spots when the other team is probably going to be in man, may look to him so they can get him something that he is comfortable with. He's too good to not make an impact right away.
Right on. Yeah. And I guess let's get into a little bit more with some quick thoughts on what does he add to the offense overall. Um, Shoop, I guess you could start. Like, what do you actually think he'll add in terms of, production and things like that moving forward?
Yeah, I honestly think he'll add more of an aspect to this offense that the defense has to worry about when it comes to just having that wide receiver one type of guy out there. I think we'll open things up more for everybody else in the offense. That's really more, I think, what he'll bring rather than maybe just, putting up. I mean, we've seen him put up over 200 yards in a game before, but I don't expect him to be doing that week in, week out. And I expect him to be more opening things up for everybody else as well.
Yeah, he definitely puts everybody kind of back where they should be in the depth chart. Like without having that true number one, guy like Keon playing outside most of the time, he's getting the number one corner a lot. Like he's not going to have to do that anymore. Like the middle of the field is going to be a bit more open because they're probably going to roll some safety help over to Amari Cooper just because you have to. He is that good, especially if they're in man because he's a great man beating receiver. Like he's a great route runner. So he kind of slides everybody back into where they should be. And a guy like Matt Collins, who's been getting a large amount of target share, he's back to being like the number 4 or 5 guy and in there, to block and play special teams and get the occasional target here and there. So it's not that the Bills didn't have good receivers before. It's just, having that true number one, that true alpha is really going to help kind of get everybody back into where they're most comfortable and the best spot for them to be successful.
Yeah,
Lance,
my
you're
biggest
muted if you're
thing, I
talking.
think,
Oh, there you
with
go.
yep, I got you. My biggest thing is I think Curtis Samuel and definitely Shakir are guys that certainly benefit from this move 100%. I think, like you mentioned, the defense, and like I mentioned with his snap share, I think he can't be ignored by the defense. So with guys not being able to just play simple man coverage, they're going to have to do some different things in coverage now that he's added to the offense, and then that just opens up a ton more. And he mentioned even in his conference saying like, oh, I'm still going to be here in the run game too. So he's going to be out there, no block, no rock, I think is what you said in the beginning of the season, Scott. So I think he kind of comes with that mantra too. He has that ability to be effective there as your staple X guy. And then, or maybe can play flanker as well, as they mentioned in some of the pressers. So I think he's a welcomed addition. Obviously a name, the name alone is going to warrant some attention from the opposing defenses. And I'm pretty excited to see how guys like Shakir and Samuel kind of benefit the most from this. And even Kincaid, I think, can really see some benefits. Those three guys really now playing more of a relaxed role. They don't have to be top dog necessarily. Nobody has to, they really can rely on Amari to take that role. He's had it everywhere he's been, really. So it's not forcing people to be uncomfortable. And I think you'll see that comfort level in 3 to 4 weeks really show up just in time for the Kansas City game, maybe. We also signed Lucas Havrasik to the practice squad. Do you think we can light a fire under Tyler Bass's ass, or what do you think?
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I think that's what this move was. I saw a lot of people saying he has the same field goal percentage as Tyler Bass's career. Why would they sign him? Well, I've unfortunate news for you. If someone has a better field goal percentage than Tyler Bass right now, they're on an NFL roster and they're just not available. So whenever you're trying out kickers midseason, it's not a place that you want to be. So there's not a ton of great options out there. So yeah, I don't see him getting any real game time unless Tyler Bass just gets worse than he has been, which seems impossible, but I guess it is possible in theory. But yeah, I think it's just a move to try to get him fired up, let him know hey man, we can replace you. They can't cut him. They financially can't cut him, because if we cut him, we would owe him more money than we have available in the salary cap. So that's financially not possible. So yeah, just get him fired up, get him some competition. Competition breeds excellence. So yeah, we'll see if he ever does anything, but yeah, just a competition move, I think.
Yeah, I don't think this really changes too much when it comes to Bass, but I think it is just more of a competition move. I agree with Scott. I don't think you'll actually see him out on the field. Unless Bass really starts to just miss absolutely everything. But I just, I think Bass is already in his head enough where bringing this guy in, it doesn't hurt. Just because Bass, I think, is already struggling to mentally get over whatever he's going through on the football field right now. So bringing in a guy just to maybe say, hey, maybe this can kind of kick in that competitive fire under Bass and get him going. It's worth a shot, but we'll get to it right after the next question here. I do think they should try to bring in somebody else. I didn't necessarily understand bringing in a kicker who has the record maybe that Havrasek, or if I'm pronouncing that right, what his averages say. So I mean, it is what it is. I don't think at the end of the day, like Scott said, I don't think you'll see him in live game action.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're stuck with Tyler Bass right now. Like Scott mentioned, it's financially a bad place to be for the Buffalo Bills if Bass goes any further south or continues to not play well. And so there's only so many things you can do, only so many levers you can pull at this point with that situation, and they're going to do what they can. If someone does become available, I'm not sure how that really happens in season, like Scott mentioned, so we'll have to really ride it out at least for this year. I'm not sure what maybe the cap opens up next year for us and we can maybe take another little bit of a loss on him if we need to, but it's unfortunate, really, and just hope that by some stroke of luck we can turn some things around. Thanks for joining us, guys.
They haven't out Tyler Bass's deal after this season, so they can let go of him for a bit. But yeah, we're stuck with him at least through the end of this year.
For sure. And if you haven't done so, guys, please smash the like and the share button. Go on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. That would help immensely. And shout out to our sponsors, Buffalo Belia Sports and More. Check out their Facebook page at Buffalo Belia Sports and More on Facebook, and check out some great custom signed Bills gear. I don't have my normal helmet over my shoulder tonight as I'm on the road, but also official partner, energy partner of Built in Buffalo is Monster Energy Drink. So check us out at the Monster Energy tailgate on Sunday over at the Big Tree Inn. We'll be there handing out free Monster Energy and swag, have some games to play, things like that. So check us out at Big Tree Inn on Sunday. I'll be there with a host of other Built in Buffalo folks. Getting to the next topic, are the Bills done making moves? What do you think on that, Scott?
Hard to say. I kind of feel like maybe because I don't remember Bean making more than one in-season trade before. If he has, I don't remember him making more than one. But usually when he's made his trades, it's been a little bit closer to the deadline. Doing this one a couple weeks beforehand, which one I think is great. It gives Amari more time to get ingrained in the offense versus waiting a couple more weeks. If they were to go get somebody, I think it would be a safety. But again, it would have to be a similar kind of situation as Amari Cooper, someone who they don't have to pay any money to, and they don't have to give up a great pick. Because I don't believe that Bean's going to want to give up one of the 2 seconds that we have next year. We don't have a third anymore because that's for Amari Cooper. So maybe if they can trade like a 5 or a 6 for like a depth piece, but I don't see them making a move for another like starter caliber player necessarily. If they did, like I said, it would be a safety, but it would have to be like the perfect situation, kind of like the Amari Cooper thing was. And I don't know if there's a whole lot of that out there.
Yeah, I agree with Scott. I don't think, if it is, it'd be awesome if they do make a move, but it has to be the right circumstances. Like this Cooper trade would happen to just be almost the perfect situation. Guy that is on little money. They weren't asking for too much for a guy that is starter caliber. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to get that around the league again with somebody else. I know people have talked about like Buda Baker, but that's another one where the money becomes an issue. Or, even looking at a guy that I threw out a little bit earlier in the Built in Buffalo chat, Andre Sisco, who, yeah, he might be a little cheaper. Syracuse alum, might be a little cheaper, but again, he's 24. Are the Jags going to want to give him up without having to get back a second round pick or even maybe even more than that? So like he's a guy. I do think I was alluding to him a little bit earlier. Kicker wise, I would love to see them give Rodrigo Blankenship a chance. I know he got cut a little bit ago. I think it was from Indy, and then he went back to Indy, and then got cut by Arizona because he went to Arizona. He struggled for a little bit, though. He did have his struggles, but I believe he also had a hip injury and he was playing through it, so could allude to that as well. So I would like to see them maybe bring him in, but again, I think they're kind of content on their kickers right now. And I do see Jamal Adams was commented as well from Andrew. As much as Jamal Adams, I think veteran presence wise could make a difference. I just think on the football field, he doesn't fit what the Bills need. They need a coverage safety. They need a guy that can do a little bit of everything as well. So he's more of, I feel like, kind of like Taylor Rapp and more in that aspect of safety, being a strong safety, coming up in the box, being able to make tackles. He's never been a guy that will go get you great coverage stats, especially once he started going over to Seattle. So yeah, I mean, Jamal Adams, he's a little bit older. I'm not a huge fan of that move. I wouldn't expect it either, just because it doesn't fit exactly, I think, what the Bills need. But
you mean it being a good football player, because he's not, and so that would
especially not anymore. He's what, 30 something now. 30.
Yeah, no, we don't need any more bad football players.
Yeah, but yeah, and I don't think he, like you said, I don't think he fits exactly what the Bills are looking for when it comes to the style of safety either way, even if he was still good like he used to be. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with them. If they do make a move, it should be safety, but I don't expect any moves made.
Yeah, I kind of do expect if things continue to go the way they're going in the back end. I don't think it's necessarily been great there with Damar Hamlin. So I think Mike Edwards is apparently not on this team. I have no idea why he's even on the roster if they're not going to use him. So maybe Damar gives them the best chance to win, but still leaves a little bit to be desired, I believe, there in my eyes. So we'll see how it pans out, but I think definitely safety is a target, and I think Bean's going to do everything he can to make this the best team he can have on the field this year. He alluded to in his conference, he's always looking. He's been looking at this Amari Cooper deal for weeks and weeks and staying on it, and finally it happened here. So, there's some other things. He's already had some conversations, I'm sure, about certain things, and as that trade deadline draws closer, they're going to have a little more introspective on, what guys have going on. You don't know what sort of injuries are going to pop up between now and then either. So this defensive line looks like it's a little nicked up right now, and especially with Von Miller suspension. So you don't know if a D lineman makes sense at any point in time. Again, it's hard because the money there is hard to work in. So that's the biggest thing against really making more moves, is the money part has to be perfect, and it's going to be tough to find. But overall, I think he's going to keep looking, and there's at least one or two moves that can and may be made moving forward this season, and hopefully we don't have to worry about that being due to injury or due to losing a guy. But you just never know if that stuff pops up. Then he may have to be more reactive than proactive.
Yep.
So that does it for our quick thoughts there. We're going to take a run through the offensive matchups versus the defense. So Scott, I'll let you take this one away, brother. Or I'm sorry, let's roll into 1 minute, huh? You probably should do that
Yeah,
first.
I was going to say, I'll do my 1 minute and then I'll take it from there.
All right.
So, like we just talked about, the Bills did what pretty much everybody said they should do. Go get a true number one receiver. For those people saying that Amari Cooper isn't number one receiver anymore, just know that he had his career high in yards last year with Joe Flacco. And Josh Allen is by far the best quarterback that he's ever played with. So I think he's going to fit into this offense really well. So, like I said, everybody said they needed a receiver. Now that they have one, do you think that this Bills roster, as constructed, can win a Super Bowl this year? I'm going to say yes, but I think a lot of things have to go their way. I don't think they can afford to have any serious injuries in the playoffs. I think that it would help if they didn't have to play Kansas City, or they maybe someone took out Baltimore too. So I think they have the ability to win the Super Bowl. But I wasn't sure if this team was a singular receiver away from winning a Super Bowl. I have a lot of other people out there seem to think that they were. So now that they've done it, they've gone and gotten that number one. What do y'all think? Can this team, as currently constructed, win a Super Bowl?
Abso-freaking-lutely they can, because they got 17 at quarterback, so that helps a ton with a legitimate wide receiver threat there. Like I said earlier, cannot be ignored by a defense at this point in his career. He's still got some juice there, so I think it definitely gives them that puncher's chance more than anything, at least. And then if the defense stays healthy and can be productive, show a little more on the pass rush and make sure they get consistent pressures in the playoffs, then they do have that chance.
Yeah, I definitely think, when you have a guy like 17 back there, like we were saying, you always have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I think this Amari Cooper trade changes a lot. Before the trade, I think everybody knew that I didn't think the Bills really had enough. I'm not sure if they had enough once they got to the playoffs to officially get over it. Now, I still don't think that they should be a favorite by any means, especially when you still have Kansas City in the same conference. But they could very easily go on a run in the playoffs. We've seen Josh Allen go Superman mode in the playoffs even more than ever. So definitely a big possibility. We'll see as the season goes on how the defense ends up switching up, how the offense ends up looking with Cooper. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, definitely a possibility. I know some people think that there's no possibility when you have a guy like Sean McDermott as coach, but at the end of the day, he's still a top tier head coach. And I think, all it takes is one Super Bowl run for you to become a Super Bowl head coach, right? We've seen it with multiple times with Mike McCarthy, even Sean Payton, those guys who have only won one Super Bowl and only been able to go on a big run once. So all it takes is one, and we'll see if the Bills can do it this year. Oh, and before we move on, I saw a comment just asking about the truth of Kaiir Elam interest. I with the Colts, I didn't see anything official. I just saw it might have been more like an idea that an analyst came up with, that the Colts should trade for a guy like Kaiir Elam. Now, who knows? There could be interest from the Colts. It could not be official, but nothing official as of yet. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Cool. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the offense. And first, we're going to talk about who the offense is going to be going against, and that is the Titans' #1 ranked defense. I don't know if a lot of people knew that, but the Titans have the number one ranked defense in the NFL as far as yards given up, and it's like 30 yards less than the number 2 team, which is the Jets. They also have the #1 pass defense as far as pass yards given up. So I want to ask you guys, do you guys think that the Titans' defense is really that good? Or is it just that they played Caleb Williams in his first game, Aaron Rodgers, Malik Willis, Snoop Huntley, and then Joe Flacco?
Yeah, I think it's got to be a combination. You know, at the end of the day, the Titans still, I think, are solid pass defense, but it's also, I think, just a product of their schedule, like you just said. I think it's a combination of both. Now they haven't played really a Josh Allen type yet. I mean, there not really is a Josh Allen type in the NFL when you think about it. But yeah, I think the Bills can definitely get the pass game going. I still think they'll lean run game. You know, I think they'll still be run heavy this game just due to the defense for the Titans. But you know, the Titans are not a team that you can be slinging the ball around willy-nilly and pray for the best. Josh is still going to have to take care of the ball like he has all season, and hopefully he does, because that's the only way I see the Bills losing this game is if the Bills start turning the ball over like crazy. So as long as they take care of the ball, the offense should be able to get enough points on the board to pull it out here.
Yeah, the Titans also only played 5 games, so their yards allowed and stuff like that are a little bit skewed, having one less game
Well,
than
it's per
some other team.
game. It's per
Right,
game.
but I mean, they also who have they played this year? Miami team who was like limping around, and then they've lost every other game other than beating Miami. So they've given up enough points to lose 4 other 5 games. So that's enough for me, regardless of yards. And I get it. You know, you're just stating that the stats, but I don't think that we need to worry too much. I think the QB pressure rate isn't anything spectacular. It's the sixth lowest pressure rate in the league, and Buffalo is not far behind. They're 8th worst in pressure rate. So, luckily, against a young quarterback like this, I think the defense plays well enough. They can disguise coverage enough, and we'll get into that. But as far as the Titans defense goes, I'm not overly concerned about them dominating the Bills. I think they have enough up front in the offensive line to move the line of scrimmage as they may need, and without that huge pressure rate against Josh Allen, if they're not able to get pressure, as they haven't really done so much this season, I think that helps the Bills have more success as well.
Yeah, I will say if they're going to run the ball a lot this weekend, which, you know, thinking they probably will, probably going to have to run to the outside more than up the middle. Just Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons in the middle. They're 2 of the best defensive tackle, I would say, or one of the best defensive tackle tandems in the game. So I'm not sure how often they're going to want to run it straight into those guys. Maybe more outside runs. But we talked about Amari Cooper earlier. And the Titans secondary, L'Jarius Sneed, our old friend from Kansas City, probably going to be out this week, like they said. So not sure who they will decide to put on Amari Cooper then if he's out. But what do you guys see the receivers looking like against this Titans secondary? And I know we talked about it a little bit. We need a little bit more detail now. Lance, we'll start with you. How do you see Amari Cooper opening that up, and what do you expect from some of the other guys now that they may have some, lesser coverage than before?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see Curtis Samuel. We keep saying that this every week, it seems like. Now it's like, all right, Curtis Samuel, this is going to be the game. We see him do something. Like, can he have like 7 catches for 85 yards at least? Like, that I think would be a pretty cool stat line for him. And it's not like he's never done that before, right? So that's kind of the game I'm hoping to see. Eventually, are we going to get that? Is like, do they have that ability or what? I don't know. But I like I said before, I really think that guys like Shakir and Kincaid can have that, like, they don't need to be the number 1 the whole game. Like, they're going to have other guys having that defensive intention, and as soon as that happens, I think they are able to win their matchups.
Yeah. I'm actually expecting this to help a guy like Keon Coleman a lot too. I think he'll be a guy that now you'll start to see him lined up in different spots all over the field. I think that's really what opens it up. Like Scott said earlier in the show, you've been seeing him lined up outside majority of the time against the number one corner. Now that you have Cooper coming in here, especially now that Snead's also not playing, you have a guy that for Coleman is going to get the second, third receiver on him sometimes. So you're going to be able to move him around. You're going to be able to get mismatches. And that goes for everybody. But I think Coleman really is going to benefit with how the receivers now will look. So I'm really interested to see how they move everybody around. That's the number one thing. But no L'Jarius Snead, excuse me, for the Titans is huge this week. I mean, we all know him far too well. He's a great corner in this league. Can get a little bit handsy at times, but at the end of the day, he makes plays. And if he's not able to go, I mean, you're looking at a Titans team that already is going to be on the field a lot, because I don't imagine the Titans being able to move the ball. And if you're already without your number one corner, you're going to have tired corners and tired third strings out there for the Titans that's going to be just hopefully getting beat all game. So for the Titans, it's a huge miss for L'Jarius Snead not being there, just because, like I said, it's going to be a long game. And it's been kind of long season for them as a team, you know, being on the field with having Levis not really exactly being able to step up and keep the offense in the field a ton. So we'll see what happens with the receivers, but I'm excited to see kind of what they do here and how they operate that as well. So
yeah, I'm excited to see, like I was saying earlier, kind of everybody finding their new role, and probably the role that they should have been in the first place. Like Keon Coleman, he's still going to play outside a lot. I know some people were talking about maybe him playing in the slot more. I don't know if that's really where he's going to thrive either, just because he doesn't have that like quickness. Like he's fast, but he's more of like a straight line speed kind of guy than like a shifty slot guy. And also, like in our scheme in the slot, you have to block a lot. And I don't know if he is quite ready for all that. But now he's not going to be getting the number one corner outside. That number one corner is going to be on Amari Cooper. And then in the slot, you know, Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Kincaid, like you mentioned, they're going to have stuff open up just because coverage is going to roll over to that other side where Amari Cooper is, because you have to worry about him. The safety is going to be looking out of the corner of his eye like, hey, like, what's he doing? Amari Cooper is a deep threat. Like, is he going to run a post? Is he going to run a go? Is he going to run something that's going to like draw me over there? So I'm excited to see. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% yet this week. He's only been in the building for 48 hours, but excited to see kind of everybody find their new role, and hopefully that puts them in a better chance of being successful. We talked a lot a couple of weeks ago about maybe that Joe Brady wasn't necessarily putting guys in their best places to be successful. I think a lot of that was just that they didn't have somebody like Amari Cooper with his skill set, so they weren't able to do that. They're asking guys to do like more than they were able to maybe. So I'm excited to see everybody kind of find their new role and their new niche in the offense. I think it's going to get better week by week. So yeah, excited to see that get started.
You want to talk a little bit about Kincaid here, this comment I threw up here?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I couldn't read and talk at the same time because I would have started saying what I was reading. So you can go ahead.
What kind of coverage has Kincaid been seeing a lot of, and what does Coop open up for him? Well, it's about the attention to where the coverage rolls. So, right, if the defense is able to be up on the underneath routes and just play man coverage because they're not afraid of getting beat over the top that much with our guys, then now they have to go and focus more on Amari Cooper on the outside. They're not able to dedicate that many people to where Kincaid's going to run his routes, or where Shakir's going to run his routes, or where Samuel's going to run. So that's where it opens it up, because the safety staying up over the top to make sure Amari Cooper is accounted for now, you know, has two guys assigned to him rather than just the one that other receivers were getting assigned to them because they weren't afraid of getting beat there. So just a matter of where that coverage has to stay in, and how it affects the way the defense may be able to shift or disguise certain coverages and just the coverage they play overall.
I also think it doesn't allow the defense to play as physical against this Bills team. Like, that's the other thing is they're not able to just say, hey, we're going to line up man to man. We're going to come up and we're going to be physical with you and dare you to beat us man to man. Because now that you have a guy that can beat you consistently against man, you're going to have to play a little bit off more, and you're going to have to play with a little bit of, like Scott said earlier in the show, you're going to have to see safeties rolling over sometimes more, and you're going to have to see the defenses kind of completely shift how they're playing this offense. So I think it will open things up for not even just Kincaid one-on-one, but just like you said, Samuel one-on-one, Shakir one-on-one, because now it's not, okay, we're going to get up and we're going to get in your face and be physical with you and dare you to beat us man-to-man, because now you're not able to double team Kincaid. You're not able to just double team Shakir constantly. You have to worry about Cooper now coming in there and being able to beat a guy one-on-one consistently.
Yeah, you can't keep as many guys. You can't cover Kincaid with a linebacker and a safety anymore. You can't just man up the guys one-on-one on the outside anymore. So, yeah, just going to open stuff up. Just going to be less guys in the middle of the field. So, yeah, exciting stuff for everybody on the offense. And I know it kind of seems like an anti-everybody eats move, but, if there's one guy who is kind of head and shoulders above everybody else, it opens up for everybody else below him. So kind of, I know he's going to get the lion's share of the targets probably once he gets in the rhythm, but it is going to help open up things for other guys. Ray Davis had a standout performance on Monday night. He led the team in rushing 97 yards and receiving with 55 yards, caught that beautiful deep ball from Josh Allen. I did see he was limited today, but they said that he should be good to go for Sunday. He just tweaked his calf in practice, so I think that was more precautionary.
It was the end of last game. He tweaked his calf, and then it kind of reared its head again after yesterday's practice. So limited today, but yeah, like Scott said, should be good to go.
Yeah, and he's also not going to have to be the feature back on Sunday. So if he goes back to his probably more role than he had before, but not the full, he's not getting 22 carries again on Sunday. So, Ben, I know you've been all over Ray Davis. You liked him a lot. I liked him a lot as well. What do you think of him after his kind of breakout performance? And do you see more Ray Davis in the future in more of a two-headed attack in the backfield versus it being like James Cook, who was undoubtedly the feature back for the first 4 weeks?
Yeah, I think you have to. I've been saying it for a while, like you said, Scott. It's been something that I've been wanting more of, is more Ray Davis. And as much as I love Cook, I just think it kind of is the similar of how we were just talking about Cooper coming in for the receivers. Ray Davis getting more touches can kind of open up the offense and open up the run game, because now you have Cook back there. They're not like, okay, well, he's going to be the number one guy getting the ball and rundowns. You're going to have to worry about another guy coming in that's fresh, that's able to keep his legs fresh, and it might even help James Cook stay a little bit fresher. So I think you gotta use both of them, especially with Ray Davis's ability to break tackles and get yards after contact. And I just saw the comment come in, like Detroit's backfield. That's a team that I've been talking about all year, how I absolutely idolize how they utilize their two backs. Now, we were talking before the show, Gibbs and Montgomery might be a little bit of a different level of two-headed than Cook and Davis can be, but still, you see teams that are able to use two backs consistently. They oftentimes their offenses are rolling. Even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who might even be more of the Bills level, maybe even less than the Bills level of two-headed, where you've seen it with Rashad White and Bucky Irving.
Don't forget Sean Tucker.
And this past week with Sean Tucker
and
because Rashad White
we're pleased.
Hurt. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nobody
So that's like, you've seen it though around the league where teams are starting to utilize two backs, and it's starting to keep guys fresh, and it helps both backs so much. It helps the offensive line as well, because you have a now guy back there with fresher legs. So I think you got to continue to feed Ray Davis a little bit. I still think you use Cook as the number one, but utilize Ray Davis. I think, especially in short yardage situations, I'd love to see him in more. Or even if you are going to run it on 2nd and long, which the Bills have become kind of accustomed to doing it on 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, I'd rather see a guy like Ray Davis in there who can kind of fall forward for an extra couple if you absolutely need him to, so you're not facing a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6 even, where Ray Davis is more of that bruiser type of breaking tackles type of back, where Cook is more of a, hey, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to find the hole, and I'm just going to outrun you sometimes. So I'd like to see them utilize both of them. I've been banging my head on it for weeks, and we finally got to see Ray Davis, and man, did he take advantage of the carries.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the Titans do give up some 10+ yard runs at times, but then they also like lead the league in run stuffs. So like their run stuff percentage is tops in the league at 28.4%. So it's going to be like it's going to have to be a little more of that unpredictable type play calling like we've been clamoring for a bit, because the Titans, if you show them what you're going to do, they're going to come up and stuff you for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Ray Davis. Like I said, he was the draft pick that I liked the most coming out of the draft. I loved watching him at college at each of the 7 schools that he went to, or whatever it was. I think it was 4, but I said 7 for effect. And yeah, like if you look, like all the top teams in the NFL, like they use multiple running backs. Like the days of, other than like Derrick Henry everywhere he goes because he's just a freak, but like the days of having that one like bell cow running back are kind of gone, and you need that change of pace. And I think Ray Davis provides that. And like he also showed he can catch passes out of the backfield, which I think some people weren't sure if he could do. And James Cook, when he's in there, it's like, oh, you got to watch out, like the passing threat. But like Ray Davis showed that he has that just as well. So really excited for the future of the backfield. And we're gonna have these guys next year too. And if Ray Davis shows that he can perform like this and he continues to take steps, like the Bills were going to have a tough decision. Are you going to pay James Cook? Are you going to pay a running back in today's NFL? But if Ray Davis shows he can do this, like they probably don't have to, and that solves them a big problem. Obviously, we're a ways away from it, but it is one less thing to think about.
Draft another one, rinse and repeat, right?
Exactly. That's the new formula in the NFL these days, and some teams are even doing it with quarterbacks. Look at the 49ers. So do this every week. Who needs to step up? Who's the MVP? Since I'm running the segment, I'm going to go first, which means my guy can't get stolen this week. I'm going to say Curtis Samuel needs to step up. They haven't really figured out how they're using him best. They actually threw him the ball downfield this past week. I think he had like a 30-yard catch in the second half. I didn't know that was allowed. I didn't think he was allowed to catch the ball past the line of scrimmage. So that was pretty cool to see that they can, in fact, do that. And especially now that we got Amari Cooper, the middle of the field should be open a bit more. They're not going to have to line him up outside like they were kind of trying to do. They can put him in the slot. They can put him in the backfield, try to get him in more spots to be successful. I look for Curtis Samuel to step up, and I don't think he's going to have, crazy numbers like some people thought he may, but like I think he'll go back to being serviceable, and maybe the broadcasters will say his name a couple times a game now. And then as far as the offensive MVP, I'm gonna go with Kincaid. He is kind of starting to get into his rhythm. Played a little bit better last week. Hopefully, gets a little bit easier coverage this week against the Titans and the Titans linebackers who aren't the best in coverage. So yeah, I think for Kincaid to have a big game. Lance, you start.
Yeah, to step up, and I know he's hurt or was hurt, and he's going to play through some things. But I think Khalil Shakir with Amari Cooper coming in, if he can come in, and it's not a step up to say like he's ever been playing poorly necessarily, but he's coming off the injury, and I just want him to have a big game this year, coming off of not being able to do too much last game. So hopefully he can step up this game and have a good one. And then MVP for me is going to be James Cook coming back and hopefully being able to reimpose his will on this offense.
Yeah, I'm going with James Cook for both mine. I think he needs to step up in the run game here. He's coming back off the injury. With Ray Davis also kind of coming in a little bit hobbled. I know they said that he'll play, he should be fine. But I think he's got to step up and he's got to have a good game. And I think he will have a good game. I think he's got to take care of the ball. So, I mean, it's pretty simple when it comes to just stepping up for James Cook. We've seen it before. As long as this offense takes care of the ball, and James Cook is going to be number one, I think, in that department, because I think they're going to have to lean on him heavy, because I think they'll get up early, and then there might be a game where they do lean on the run game heavily in the second half. So as long as they take care of the ball, and he's the featured back, he's the guy that I'm gonna think needs to step up, and I think he will. Yeah,
the bum had no yards last week. What was that? All right. So anybody else have anything else on the offense or the Titans defense?
No.
All good.
All
So
right.
I'm going to take over. I'm going to go on, do my 1 minute quickly, and then we'll get on to the defensive matchups. All right. So this week, my 1 minute is going to be asking, what do you think Amari Cooper does for Bills fantasy players on offense? I think it opens up Kincaid a ton because I have him on one team and he hasn't been the greatest tight end. But I think he opens up, as I've been saying all episode, I think in fantasy, you're going to see even an uptick because he's going to take um, more of Mac Hollins and MVS's targets rather than take anything away from the other guys. So I think you're actually going to see an uptick in production from guys like Shakir and Kincaid. Hopefully Samuel and Cook, I think, is going to still be good fantasy options. And as he gets more integrated, Cooper himself is going to become a great fantasy option later in the season. So what do you guys think about Amari Cooper's impact on the other Bills offensive players in fantasy football, and then also Amari's fantasy impact as he gets rolling with the Bills?
Yeah. I do think that this will help certain guys on the offense, but I think it will also hurt certain guys. I think when it comes to Shakir, he's one that I think it could hurt just because I think, you're taking targets away from him at the end of the day. But I do think Kincaid will be helped in this situation. I think you'll see him get a lot easier catches, just a few more even a game, just because he'll be less of a focal point for defenses. I do think the guy this helps most, though, in fantasy, which he's kind of gotten off to an interesting start, and we're not maybe used to it with this guy, is Josh Allen. He's had some duds of a week. He's had some still great weeks. It's been a little bit up and down. I do think this helps him in a huge way, just because he'll be able to find Cooper a little bit more and find everybody else a little bit easier. So, he's a guy that I think will help. One guy that it might not help is James Cook and Ray Davis, just because they might, get some touches taken away from them because now they might be throwing the ball a little bit more, on top of they might even then get some touchdowns taken away because they might throw it in a little bit more. Cooper might break a couple, or even get it closer to the goal line by throwing it to Cooper or throwing it to whoever. And then we all know what happens. Josh Allen's able to run it in. So when it comes to,
he takes more of Mac Hollins, though, more so because Mac's already got a couple touchdowns on the year himself, and 26 targets between MVS and Hollins through 6 games. I just think that he takes more of those things than he does away from the other guys.
I also think, though, the reason we've been seeing a lot more targets, I think, to Hollins and a couple of these receivers like MVS is because they've had to throw it a little bit more maybe than we might see. We might see less offensive plays per game just because the offense might be more effective. So, I mean, I think it will open up things for certain guys, but the one guy that I'm curious to see majorly is Shakir, just because you're now adding a number one receiver, and Shakir was that guy, and he was already averaging about 5 or 6 targets a game. So even if you are just taking Hollins and MVS's targets and giving them to Cooper, there's not much more I think that you can give to. I think it opens things up more for Kincaid than it does Shakir. Now, but it could open it up for everybody, and I think it will open up the offense for everybody. I just think you might see less targets per game going to Shakir because of you're bringing in Cooper. But I mean, if it brings more to both of them, I'm all for it. So either way, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't really like fantasy football all that much. I play it because I can't say no. But yeah, I agree. I think that it definitely helps Josh Allen just because he has a big-time true number one receiver to throw to. As far as taking away from like Mac Hollins in the red zone, I don't really know if it does, just because I think Mac Hollins will still be in the goal line, like red zone package, just because he's so big and he's shown that he can like get open on those quick routes against man coverage in the red zone. Like both of his touchdowns came on cover zeros, man, where he's just kind of like the first one. He almost had another one on Monday. He just kind of beats his guy to the inside, and man, it's just, I'm bigger than you. You throw it to the inside, he can't go through me. And then he routed that dude up on Monday night, like broke his ankles off the line. That was awesome. So yeah, I think Mac Hollins definitely gets a lot less targets. Also, if you have Mac Hollins on your fantasy team, like you're probably not doing that hot, so it shouldn't matter. But I think he gets less targets in the middle of the field. But I still think Matt Collins will be a part of the red zone offense, at least, just because he's too big not to be.
Like Ben said, how many more plays are they going to be running from those? If Amari adds that dynamic playmaking ability, he may be more plays from the one that are Josh Allen sneaking it in or whatnot. So it depends on how that all pans out. And I agree. I can't definitely benefit everyone, but I just think Shakir and Kincaid for me are the benefactors because the defense can't be on them as they were in the past now, and I just think they're going to be more productive than they would have been from this point moving forward in the season, given the addition of Cooper.
I will say
I felt bad for Ray Davis. Speaking about, sorry, you said taking him from the one. Ray Davis got him all the way down to the 1 yard line in that first drive. Then they sneaked in with Josh. And it was like
and I had
down.
Allen first TD, baby, so I was loving that.
It was like second down when they said, give the kid a chance. Like, he got you all the way down. He got one in, then it got taken off for a penalty. Give the kid a chance. What are we, the Eagles?
I do think I do agree though. I think it benefits everybody. Just fantasy benefit is the big question for me because, like I said, I don't know how many more targets this opens up for Shakir. I think I will say
it makes his targets more effective, right? Because now he's not getting, the plays that they call for him can be more productive now because the defense can't pay so much attention to him.
Yeah, I will say that is. I think it opens up more opportunities for big games from Shakir. Maybe not more consistently big games, but just you might see a little bit more of those 20-point games just because he might be able to have a couple more bigger games than he would have without Cooper here. So we'll see though. I mean, it's going to be awesome. It's always nice talking Bills with fantasy. I know a lot of people do fantasy around this world and a lot of people probably watching are do fantasy. Even if you don't like it, like Scott does. So yeah. We'll see, though, as we go in. But we talked about the Bills' offense. I think it's time now we talk about the Bills' defense. There's not too much to talk about here. We're going to pretty much probably fly through this just because, again, this Titans
Scott's
offense.
Got to catch a plane, too, so that's another reason.
Yeah, Scott's trying to catch a plane. And, the Titans' offense hasn't really been that big of an offense this year. We'll start it off just with the simple question. Does anybody on this offense scare you? They brought in this past offseason. They bulked up the receiver room. We saw them bring in Hopkins 2 years ago. They brought in Calvin Ridley. They brought in Tony Pollard in the run game this year. What does anybody scare you on this offense though? Legitimately, when they have a guy like Will Levis back there, we'll start with you, Lance. Does anybody scare you?
I mean, these three receivers, Ridley, Hopkins, and Boyd, would scare me. But yeah, it's who's throwing them the ball, right? So that's the biggest thing. We talked a little bit about Skoronski and those folks on the offensive line that are a decent level of production so far. But if it was somebody else at quarterback or the quarterback was producing at a higher clip, I'd be more worried about these three receivers. But at this point, I'm not as concerned.
Yeah, short answer, no. Like on paper, their three receivers are really good. DeAndre Hopkins, he's a name people know. Calvin Ridley, he's a name people know. Tyler Boyd, great slot receiver. Buffalo Bills hero, even though he never played for us. But like all of them have had a pretty good game of a stat line, except it's across 5 games, not one game. So yeah, like you said, it's the guy throwing them the ball. Honestly, I might be more afraid if Mason Rudolph was playing. They got their only win this season when Mason Rudolph played the majority of the game because Will Levis banged up his shoulder. But yeah, like the receivers, like they're getting open. Will Levis is just missing them. So not really that worried about them. If I had to pick one person, I'd say probably Tony Pollard. He's going to get all the carries this week because Tajay Spears is out, but he just has that like home run threat on every play. Couldn't really get it done.
Been giving up home runs.
Yeah, exactly. As have the Yankees, unfortunately. But
too soon.
Yeah. Yeah, Tony Pollard, like he can take it to the house every play. I know he hasn't had the best success being the lone back or the like feature back, but hopefully the Bills defensive line and linebackers can contain him. But yeah, short answer, Mike, anybody scare me? No.
Yeah, I think it also for me is not even just the fact that they have Will Levis throwing them the ball. It's also just I've unfortunately watched some of their games this year just due to fantasy as well as just interest in the NFL. Their coordinator cannot get anybody open at all. Like the way that their plays are designed, the way that the routes are combined, it's poor offensive coordinating, if that even is how I would say it. But it's just the play calls are not there. I mean, when you have three guys like Calvin Ridley, Hopkins, and Board, you'd expect at least something better than they've gotten. But it's just, the route trees from especially when you look at a guy like Calvin Ridley, you just paid him all this money and you're sending him downfield on, I think it was 40. I think NFL Pro has him at 46% of his routes are just downfield threats, and it's horrible. I mean, last game he had targeted 8 times. And if anybody wants to go, I think CBS made a montage of all 8 targets. They were horribly designed plays in the first place, and they were just force feeding him the ball, and it's not going to work well if you're doing that. So that's even more so. It's not even just that nobody scares me on this offense. It's just the way that their plays are designed are poor, and it reminds me a little bit of when we saw last year with the Bills before Dorsey got fired. It was just the play calling was not there. But if I did have to say somebody actually that scares me just this week, which I do like in real life as well for the rest of the Titans rebuild that they got going here, is Okonkwo. I do like him a lot. I think that he could be a guy that the Bills end up forgetting about because they're paying so much attention to Boyd, Hopkins, and Ridley. We've seen tight ends kill the Bills in the past, but at the end of the day, I don't see this offense really doing much against this Bills defense unless the Bills start dropping like flies on the football field. So, yeah, not too much.
Careful. He's hit double-digit yards the past 3 games. Watch out.
But he's young. He's young. I think they got to get him involved, though. I do think so. I like him, but we'll see. But we were just talking about Will Levis, the Will Levis experience, as people have been calling it. I mean, you've seen, I think, every week that he's played, there's been one screenshot of just the most hilarious looking screenshot you've ever seen where you're like, what could have happened to lead up to this? So it's been an experience for sure. We know he's got a big arm. He's been able to sling it, but he also underthrows a lot of balls. So what are you expecting from Will Levis this week? Are you expecting, I see John here has been saying he's got 7 interceptions and he hasn't even played through the entirety of all of his games. So yeah, it's not been pretty for Will Levis. So what are you guys expecting to see from Will Levis against an aggressive Sean McDermott defense usually, or Bobby Babbitt defense, and just a defense that is getting healthier as well? So we'll start with you, Scott. What are you expecting from Will Levis this week?
Yeah, if Will Levis just played quarterback like a normal human the first 2 weeks of the season, they probably have a winning record right now. Like, if he doesn't throw like one of the worst interceptions against the Bears in week 1, they win that game. If he doesn't try to like throw it backwards while he's falling down in week 2 against the Jets, they probably win that game. Like, people used to joke that like Josh Allen would run the like mash all the buttons plays. It feels like Will Levis is doing that, but like with 2 controllers or something. Like, sometimes it's like he just like, I got to do something. I got to make a play. Just like, if anybody watched Spencer Rattler last night, that like last play where he just got like, he actually had 2 plays where he just got like spooked and threw the ball in the air. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe he's not, like, the game I think is just going way too fast for him so far. And I kind of feel bad for him because he showed some flashes last year. Like, he started in the second half of the year. He came in throwing bombs to DeAndre Hopkins in his first start. I think he threw him like 3 long touchdowns. Like, he won some games. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, he was raw, but like there's stuff there. And it just looks like he's regressed. So I don't know, like maybe that's coaching. They have a new coaching staff this year. They have a new OC. They don't have Derrick Henry, who is a quarterback's best friend. So, yeah, like I'm not worried about Will Levis. He definitely has talent. He can make all the throws like with his arm talent. Just not necessarily. He doesn't. I think his body doesn't always do what his brain is telling it to. So it'll be fun to watch because he's going to do something that leaves you speechless. It could be good. It could be really, really bad. But yeah, I'm excited to watch him play on Sunday just because he's a wild ride.
Yeah, I expect at least a couple of interceptions. I think someone in the comments mentioned about the Bills defense scoring a touchdown this week. I think that's definitely in play. The defense is getting healthier. So this doesn't bode well for a Will Levis experience to go great in Buffalo this weekend.
Yeah, it's been brutal for him, and like I said, it's not getting any help from his coaching there as well. I think it's been abysmal. I actually kind of going into the season was excited to see what he would look like. Like Scott said, he had a decent end of the year last year, and this year it's been just a brutal experience. It's almost like he's trying to do his best Josh Allen expression, or not expression. I'm getting all mixed up. His best Josh Allen, like just
Impression.
he's trying to mimic Josh Allen, and it's just not working at all because it's hard to be Josh Allen when you're not 6'5", you can sling it around like him, and when you're not Josh Allen. So yeah, for Will Levis, it's been a little bit of a brutal one. I expect the Bills to get after him and be aggressive and make it very difficult for him. So yeah, we'll see though what happens, and maybe he dices the Bills up, but I would highly suggest to bet against that. So we'll see. But before we get on to my 1 minute here, we did our offensive MVP and who needs to step up. And now it's time to do our defensive MVP and who needs to step up. So Scott took his first last time because he was running it. I'm going to take mine first this time because I'm running it. So for the Bills defense, who needs to step up? I think, again, it's got to be Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones. I think that the only way the Bills lose this game is if somehow the run game for the Titans get going and Tony Pollard can run all over us. So I think Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver, Dwayne Carter, Austin Johnson, those guys in the middle are going to need to step up. MVP, I think I'm going to go with Teron Johnson. I think he ends up getting a pick off Levis. I think Levis will force something and Teron will be there ready to go. So he's going to be my MVP. So yeah, those are going to be mine. So what do you got? We'll go with Lance this time.
I don't know if I want to steal Scott's guys, but I think we really need to have Greg Rousseau step up in the passing game and really come through, because he had the one game and hasn't done really much in the passing game since. So as far as getting in the sack on the sack line or in the stat sheet, so. MVP, I'm going to go with Terrell Bernard. I think Bernard's going to be able to disguise a lot this week and be able to do a lot within this defense.
Yeah, Greg Rousseau was going to be my choice to step up because, yeah, like you said, he had 3 sacks week 1 and then, like, not a whole lot from him since. Pass rush last week, yeah, like Andrew said, like AJ Epinesa had, I think he got credited with 2 sacks, even though one was a penalty. At least that's what the box score said. Maybe the craziest roughing the passer penalty. Well, second craziest roughing the passer penalty I've seen, to when Chris Jones got called for roughing the passer while he was possessing the football. That one was interesting. But I'll go Damar Hamlin needs to step up then. He's struggled in the run game. Like, he's doing okay in coverage, but like, he doesn't get off blocks that well. It looks like a lot of times he runs like to the blocker instead of trying to run like through the blocker or get around the blocker. Like, he just kind of runs to contact and stays there. So I'd like to see him get a little bit more aggressive. And then my MVP, and this is more so just because I thought this guy played really well against the Jets, and I hope that continues now that he's back and healthy. And that's Taylor Rapp. Like, he broke up 2 plays, one that would have been a touchdown to Garrett Wilson and another that would have been a first down, just because he came in and hit the guy so hard that he didn't want to hold on to the football anymore. So I think Taylor Rapp, I look for him to build off of that, continue that performance, because safety has been a big question mark. And if Taylor Rapp can play like that, and we have one safety that we know is going to be that dude week in and week out, that's huge for this defense.
Yeah, let us know, you guys. I see some people got him down here. We got set up AJ and Benford MVP. Benford, he had a great game against Miami, and he's been a great corner this year, but he's been quiet, which is a good thing for corners. So maybe this is a week that he gets going again. Epinesa, another one. He had a great game last week. Obviously got 1 sack called back because of the piss poor penalty that even Aaron Rodgers after the game came out and said it was a bad one. And then we got Rasul Douglas here as well to get an interception. So one of the corners they're a hot one here with Benford and Douglas in the comments. So maybe we'll see a little interception this week. I do expect somebody to get an interception. So we'll see who it is. Let us know what you guys think though down below. We already see some other ones. But that is going to hold on, before I get into my 1 minute, Andrew's got a hot take here. We got Douglas, Benford, and Terrell Bernard all with picks. That would be awesome if that does happen. Andrew, shout out to you if that does. That'd be absolutely awesome. But yeah, we'll see though who steps up, who has big games for the Bills defense. But it is going to do it for the defensive side of the talk. And I believe it is my turn to take over here for 1 minute. All right. So Lance had talked about Amari Cooper's impact on fantasy. We've talked about what Amari Cooper's impact is going to be just on the offense in general. But one guy I want to talk about is his effect that this trade's gonna have on Keon Coleman and Keon Coleman's development. You know, we've seen it the first few weeks that Coleman's been getting some more attention than maybe we've been hoping on the outside. We've been seeing him lined up against the number one corners. He's been not able to really get going and have a huge game. Has had some nice plays, had some great plays that shows signs. But what do you think this does, and how does this change things for Keon Coleman and his development? I think personally it's going to open things wide open for him. I think you're going to see a lot more single coverage on him when it comes to getting one-on-ones on the outside. You're not going to be able to have safety help over the top as much because you're going to have to worry about Cooper. And I think you're going to be able to move Coleman around the field a little bit more. You're not going to just say, hey, Coleman, you're our guy on the outside. You're our big weapon on the outside. But I think it's going to be huge for him. So let me know what you guys think it's going to do for Coleman, what Cooper is going to open up for him, and how you think this kind of affects Coleman's development. Do you think it speeds it up? Do you think it slows it down? Or do you kind of think it keeps it the same? Personally, I think it keeps his overall development around the same timeline. But I do think that you'll see things become easier for him as the season goes on and become faster for him as the season goes on. So let me know what you guys think.
Yeah, great thing. I think Coleman is going to take off. I mentioned before the season started that I thought like after the bye week is going to be a good point where Coleman hits his stride, and even this may accelerate it a little bit, but I think it helps him have another brain to pick on a position that he's going to play exactly. So it's going to be a really good learning tool for Keon Coleman. And I think coming off the bye week, you're really going to see kind of him turn a corner and be a little bit, a little bit different. He's had some explosive plays already. I think he's going to take another step even as the season progresses. You're muted, Scott.
Been watching you too much, Lance. Yeah, I also think just the way Amari, just the way like Amari Cooper carries himself too. Like he's a consummate pro. You're never gonna hear like anything negative come out of his mouth. A lot of times you're not gonna hear anything come out of his mouth. He's just a quiet guy. Saw Nick Saban on the Pat McAfee show say today that he coached Amari Cooper at Alabama for 3 years, and he didn't think they ever had a conversation. So he just shows up, does his work, keeps his head down and works hard. So I think that's a good guy for him to learn from. And then one quick fun fact before we go, just because Calvin Ridley and Amari Cooper are playing each other this week. I said this in our group, but my favorite stat about Amari Cooper is that he and Calvin Ridley are the same age, both played at Alabama, and were never teammates. I think that's wild.
Great stuff.
It is also crazy just to think they are the same age, because it feels like Cooper is at least 2 or 3 years older than Calvin Ridley, but Calvin Ridley also had the suspension and all that. So
he went to Alabama 3 years before Ridley did, and they're the same age.
Crazy. All right, guys. So that'll do it for the Triple Coverage podcast. We appreciate all that did watch. Again, the Monster Energy tailgate will be at the Big Tree Inn over on game day on Sunday. So come out and see myself and other Built-In Buffalo folks for that. Get yourself some free Monster Energy and some other swag. Hi to Robbie in the comments. Appreciate you for joining in, brother. Smash that like, comment, and share as always. Please repost if you're on X and give us a like there as well. Give all of our social medias a follow, but especially if you could head over to YouTube and subscribe to that YouTube page, hit the notification icon so you get notifications when we go live. That would be very much appreciated. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. We're excited to get Amari Cooper in here, excited for the Titans game. And with that, all we